For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On a crisp autumn morning in November 2001, 24-year-old Caleb Wanga left for a solo trek deep into Fiordland National Park, New Zealand. The bluebird day, promising clear skies, turned unexpectedly to a thick, shrouding fog across the treacherous peaks. And Caleb radioed he'd cut down towards a creek, then a chilling silence. He never arrived. Despite an extensive, brutal search and rescue operation mounted in one of the world's most unforgiving and remote landscapes, Caleb Wanga vanished without a single trace. For 24 agonizing years, the Wanga family lived with unbearable uncertainty, haunted by the vast, untamed wilderness that held their son. Then in 2025, a haunting discovery was made near a remote waterfall, high in a mossy chute. A single tramping boot, its eyelets long rusted, lodged deep in the fern duff. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Caleb Wanga. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. Fiordland National Park, New Zealand, presented a landscape of unparalleled grandeur. Towering peaks, ancient rainforests, and glacial fjords carved a wilderness both breathtaking and profoundly unforgiving. Its remote reaches promised adventure, drawing those who sought to test their limits against its raw, untamed beauty. Yet, beneath the serene surface, danger lurked, a silent testament to the park's formidable power. In 2001, among those drawn to Fiordland's embrace was Caleb Wanga, a 24-year-old tramper. Young and full of an explorer's spirit, Caleb possessed a deep connection to the outdoors, finding solace and exhilaration in challenging trails and untouched vistas. His preparations were meticulous, his experience solid, yet even the most seasoned adventurers could underestimate the swift changes of the alpine environment. He began his trek on what was described as a bluebird day, a term for perfect clear skies, promising ideal conditions for a tramp through the park's interior. The initial hours were likely filled with the crisp air and panoramic views Caleb cherished. However, Fiordland's weather patterns are notoriously volatile. Without warning, the pristine conditions deteriorated rapidly. A dense, all-encompassing fog descended, transforming the familiar landscape into a disorienting maze of obscured features and muted sounds. Visibility plummeted, and the ground beneath, once firm, became slick with moisture. Around midday, as the fog thickened, Caleb made a radio call. His voice, though perhaps strained by the conditions, conveyed a decision. He intended to cut down to a creek. This was a common tactic for lost trampers, as following a watercourse could lead to more navigable terrain or a known landmark. It was a logical, if risky, maneuver in the rapidly worsening weather. Moments later, the radio went silent. The expected follow-up call never came. The static, once a mere background hum, now represented an ominous void. What began as a routine check quickly escalated into profound concern. Attempts to re-establish contact with Caleb proved futile. The silence stretched, each passing minute amplifying the growing unease among those monitoring his progress. The realization dawned with a cold certainty. Caleb Wanga was lost, swallowed by the vast, mist-shrouded wilderness. The precise circumstances of his disappearance remained unknown. Had he fallen? Was he injured? The Fiordland wilderness, so majestic moments before, now held him captive, its secrets guarded by an impenetrable veil of fog and dense bush. His fate, deep within the park's treacherous embrace, became an immediate and haunting mystery. The immediate concern for Caleb Wanga swiftly escalated into a full-scale search and rescue operation. Within hours of his radio silence, a rapid deployment was underway, mobilizing teams into the heart of Fiordland National Park. Leading the charge was Ben Crozier, a seasoned SAR veteran whose calm demeanor belied an intense focus on the task at hand. Alongside him was Ranger Aroha Tirangi, intimately familiar with Fiordland's capricious nature, her knowledge of the terrain invaluable. Their initial efforts were immediate and intense, driven by the critical window of time following a disappearance. However, the park itself became the primary antagonist. The same fog that had disoriented Caleb persisted, blanketing the landscape in a thick, impenetrable shroud. Search teams navigated treacherous ground, their visibility often reduced to mere meters. The dense, mossy chute terrain, characteristic of Fjordland, presented a labyrinth of slippery surfaces, hidden crevasses, and tangled vegetation. Below the surface, an intricate network of hidden waterways, plunge pools, and subterranean streams complicated every step, each a potential trap. The sheer scale of the park, hundreds of square kilometers of rugged wilderness, dwarfed the human effort, making any focused search a monumental undertaking. Days bled into weeks as the search continued with unwavering determination. Teams meticulously combed designated sectors, calling Caleb's name, scanning every rock overhang, every stream bank, every patch of dense fern. Rescue dogs were deployed, their keen senses straining against the damp air. Helicopters, when weather permitted, performed low-altitude sweeps, their powerful spotlights piercing the gloom. Yet despite the exhaustive efforts, no trace of Caleb Wanga emerged. There were no discarded gear items, no footprints, no broken branches, no sign of a fall, not even a whisper of his presence. The wilderness held its secrets tightly, offering no clues, only an unnerving silence. The painstaking search, despite its intensity, yielded nothing. The accumulating frustration began to weigh heavily on Crozier and Tirangi, and on every volunteer. Weeks turned into over a month, and with each passing day, the hope of finding Caleb alive diminished. Eventually, the heartbreaking and inevitable decision was made to scale back the active search. Resources were finite, and the probability of a successful recovery waned with every fruitless hour. The active operation transitioned into a more limited, passive monitoring phase, but the extensive ground search was officially suspended. Caleb Wanga's disappearance became a haunting enigma, a file marked unsolved, relegated to the growing list of cold cases in the unforgiving Fjordland National Park. The trail had gone cold, leaving only questions and an enduring void. The initial intense search for Caleb Wanga had concluded, yielding nothing but frustration and a deepening sense of dread. With no further leads and the vastness of Fjordland National Park swallowing every effort, the active investigation eventually ceased. What followed was the relentless march of time, a passage that slowly but surely transformed an urgent crisis into a haunting cold case. The year 2001 receded into memory, replaced by 2002, then 2003, and so on, each passing calendar bringing another year of unanswered questions. 5 years became 10, then 15, and eventually 2 decades had elapsed since Caleb's final radio call. For the family and friends of Caleb Wanga, the passage of time brought no solace, only the sustained agony of an unresolved disappearance. There was no grave to visit, no final farewell, just a perpetual void where closure should have been. The lingering uncertainty gnawed at them, an open wound that refused to heal. Each anniversary of his vanishing served as a stark reminder of the day Fjordland claimed him, leaving behind only speculation and sorrow. The case file, once thick with daily reports and search grids, grew dormant, its pages yellowing with age. It became one among many such mysteries, transferred from active police dockets to the quiet confines of a national archive. Here, amidst countless other dormant cases, sat the physical evidence and documentation pertaining to Caleb Wanga. In the controlled environment of the archives, a dedicated team worked to preserve these records. Archivist Mei Lin Tong, a meticulous guardian of institutional memory, understood the profound weight carried by each file. Her role was not merely to catalogue paper, but to safeguard the lingering echoes of past events, ensuring that even the coldest cases remained documented, accessible should new information ever surface. The file on Caleb Wanga was a poignant example, a testament to a life abruptly interrupted and a mystery stubbornly unsolved. Fjordland National Park, meanwhile, continued its indifferent existence. Its ancient forests grew thicker, its rivers flowed unchecked, and its mountains stood sentinel, holding their secrets with an unyielding grip. The park remained an unforgiving landscape, capable of both sublime beauty and brutal indifference, a place where human presence was fleeting and fragile. It had taken Caleb Wanga without a trace, absorbing him into its vast, complex ecosystem, just as it had absorbed countless other natural occurrences over millennia. After so long, the hope of any discovery, any definitive answer, had diminished to a mere flicker. The initial fervent prayers for his return had, for many, transformed into a quiet, resigned acceptance that the truth might never emerge from the depths of Fiordland's enduring secrecy. 24 years had passed since Caleb Wanga vanished into the Fiordland wilderness. The initial search had long been abandoned, the case filed away, and the hope of discovery had all but faded into the mists of time. The park, in its relentless cycle of growth and decay, had seemingly consumed every trace of the young tramper, leaving behind only the cold echoes of an unsolved mystery. Yet the wilderness, in its own unpredictable way, held a final secret, one that would defy the passage of decades and reignite a dormant investigation. The breakthrough arrived not through meticulous detective work or a sudden confession, but through sheer serendipity, in a place so remote it seemed untouched by human history. A lone individual, traversing an infrequently visited section of Fiordland, stumbled upon an anomaly. Lodged firmly within a dense patch of fern duff near the base of a cascading waterfall and above a secluded plunge pool lay a single tramping boot. Its leather was darkened by years of exposure, the laces long disintegrated, and its eyelets were heavily rusted, testament to 2 decades of moisture and the elements. The location itself was significant, a mossy chute above a hidden plunge pool, precisely the kind of treacherous water-fed terrain where Caleb Wanga was believed to have been lost. The boot's design and size were consistent with those worn by trampers of the early 2000s, and its weathered state immediately suggested an age that aligned eerily with Caleb's disappearance. There was an immediate, visceral suspicion that this was no random discarded item, but a tangible link to the unsolved cold case. News of the discovery traveled quickly, shattering the quiet resignation that had settled over Caleb's file. For those who had worked the original case, and for Caleb's enduring family, the find represented an unexpected and profound jolt. Ranger Aroha Te Rangi and SAR lead Ben Crozier, both now older but still bearing the indelible mark of the unrecovered case, felt a surge of professional urgency and personal hope. After nearly a quarter century, a physical piece of Caleb Wanga's last journey had emerged from the depths of Fiordland. The discovery dramatically reopened the cold case, transforming it from a static archive entry into a dynamic, active investigation once more. The prospect that the truth, however grim, might finally be within reach after so long was both thrilling and intensely sobering. The single tramping boot, a fragile relic from a tragedy 2 decades old, was handled with the utmost care. After its retrieval from the remote Fiordland terrain, it was transported to a specialized forensic laboratory, where a meticulous examination began. Every crease, every stitch, every speck of adhering earth was scrutinized, initially yielding little beyond the expected signs of prolonged exposure to the elements. The rusted eyelets, the degraded leather, and the remnants of fern duff confirmed its long tenure in the wilderness, but offered no immediate insight into Caleb Wanga's final moments. The discovery, however, had already galvanized the original team. SAR lead Ben Crozier and Ranger Aroha Te Rangi, whose faces now bore the lines of 2 decades, found themselves once again immersed in the details of the Caleb Wanga disappearance. The cold case, once a source of quiet resignation, was now a live, urgent investigation. Their collective experience, honed by years of search and rescue operations, was now applied to this singular, weathered boot. It was during this painstaking forensic process that an unforeseen clue emerged, one so improbable it initially defied belief. Tucked deep within the boot liner, shielded from the worst of the elements, lay a small, plastic disposable camera. Its presence was a profound shock, an anachronism from a bygone era, now potentially a direct link to Caleb's last journey. The immediate questions were stark and pressing. Could the film, after 24 years of exposure to Fiordland's unforgiving dampness and temperature fluctuations, still be viable? What images, if any, could it possibly hold? The odds seemed stacked against it. Extracting the camera required extreme delicacy, a task handled by experts accustomed to preserving the most fragile evidence. The film itself was a fragile cylinder of latent images, its emulsion potentially degraded beyond repair. Scientific expertise was paramount, as the decades-old film was carefully removed and subjected to a highly specialized development process, a race against time and decay. Every step was fraught with the potential for failure, each chemical bath and temperature adjustment critical. The team understood that this tiny, forgotten device held the potential key to Caleb's final moments, a silent witness to a mystery that had haunted them for nearly a quarter century. As the film was processed, a palpable anticipation settled over the lab, the fate of the investigation resting on the faint chemical reactions within the developing solution. The development of the decades-old film was a painstaking process, a delicate dance between chemistry and hope. For days, the forensic team worked in a hushed, controlled environment, each step carefully monitored. Then, a breakthrough. The first images began to emerge, faint at first, then gaining definition. The impossible had occurred. The film, against all odds, had survived. The resulting photographs, though degraded and tinged with the sepia of time, were undeniably clear enough to reveal crucial details. Among the series of dark, distorted frames, several stood out with stark clarity. They depicted a scene of violent, churning water, captured from an incredibly close vantage point. The most critical element within these images was a series of distinct, powerful spray arcs. These were not merely random water patterns. They were sharp, defined plumes of water, caught mid-air, indicating immense force and a specific directional impact. The angle from which they were captured suggested Caleb Wanga was positioned directly above or very close to the source of this turbulence. Careful analysis of these spray arcs by hydrological experts revealed a startling truth. The pattern and trajectory of the water indicated a significant yet previously unseen drop-off or ledge. This was no gentle cascade, but a powerful, concentrated waterfall, likely hidden from aerial view by dense foliage and the natural contours of the mossy chute. This unseen ledge, directly above a hidden plunge pool, provided a critical piece of the puzzle. It suggested a sudden, violent fall, precisely the kind of event that would leave no trace in a conventional search. The images offered a direct visual confirmation of a specific dangerous feature of the terrain previously unknown to searchers, a blind spot in the initial investigation. Armed with this unprecedented visual evidence, the investigation moved into a new phase. Hydrology experts collaborating with SAR, lead Ben Crozier and Ranger Aroha Teirangi, utilized advanced modeling techniques. They studied the specific characteristics of the spray arcs, the estimated height of the drop, and the flow rates of the surrounding waterways. By inputting this data into sophisticated simulations, they began to backtrack debris pulses, modeling how a body or objects would be carried by the water flow from the point of impact. This scientific application allowed them to reverse engineer the water's path, tracing potential trajectories downstream from the unseen ledge. The hydrological analysis, combined with the precise angles and features visible in Caleb's final photographs, definitively pointed to a specific slot within the complex network of waterfalls and plunge pools. This was not a general area, but a remarkably precise location. A narrow, water-scoured channel deep within the Fjordland wilderness, where the force of the fall would have pinned or carried anything caught within its currents. The spray arcs, captured in a fleeting moment by a forgotten camera, had become a precise roadmap. The visual evidence from the disposable camera, combined with the rigorous hydrological data, had created an undeniable and precise trajectory of Caleb Wanga's last moments, transforming a 24-year-old mystery into a solvable equation. The truth, long submerged, was finally rising to the surface. With the precise coordinates now established by the combined analysis of the camera's images and hydrological modeling, a targeted search operation was launched. This was no longer a broad, speculative effort, but a meticulously planned descent into a specific, previously unidentifiable slot within the Fjordland wilderness. SAR lead Ben Crozier and Ranger Aroha Teirangi personally oversaw the specialized team, equipped with rappelling gear and advanced recovery tools as they navigated the treacherous water-scoured channel deep within the mossy chute. The path was exactly as the spray arcs and hydrological backtracking had indicated, a hidden vertical drop leading into a confined, turbulent space. There, amidst the relentless flow and the accumulated debris of a quarter century, the team found what remained of Caleb Wanga. The discovery brought a profound, somber closure to a mystery that had haunted the park and its personnel for over 2 decades. His remains, along with fragments of his gear, were carefully recovered, finally providing a physical answer to his fate. The formal declaration followed swiftly. The 24-year-old cold case of Caleb Wanga's disappearance was officially closed. Ranger Aroha Terangi, her voice tinged with a blend of sorrow and hard-won relief, reflected on Fiordland's enduring power. She acknowledged the park's indifferent beauty, a force that both enchanted and claimed, and the humbling lesson in perseverance that Caleb's case represented. Ben Crozier, the SAR lead, spoke of the decades-long burden carried by the initial searchers and the immense satisfaction in finally delivering answers, however late. He emphasized the crucial role of scientific rigor and the unexpected gift of a forgotten camera. Archivist Mei Lin Tong noted the profound satisfaction of witnessing a dormant file, one she had safeguarded for years, finally resolve into a complete narrative, a testament to the fact that no case is ever truly lost to time while its records exist. The legacy of Caleb Wanga's disappearance became a testament not only to Fiordland National Park's formidable dangers, but also to the relentless pursuit of truth. It underscored the unpredictable nature of the wilderness and the extraordinary confluence of chance, technology, and human dedication required to unravel its deepest secrets. Caleb Wanga, whose story was once swallowed by the mists and currents of Fiordland, ultimately had his final moments illuminated by a single forgotten camera and the unyielding commitment of those who refused to let his memory fade into the silence. His journey, once lost, was finally understood.